Even on the board?
Yeah. Even
See, I got to remind you every time. We're back with another episode. First, the sponsors. Head over to www.johnbartoloshow.com. And I want to thank Rhino Metals for all the tables, Gallo Technologies for all the walls behind us, Blackwater Ammunition, Galco Leather Holsters, Manscaped. Missing somebody. I'm missing other people. You got the feedback. You got to kill the feedback. You got the YouTube feedback on. Good. We're missing something else. I'm missing another spot. Right on Optics. The list is a mile long. Head down below. Check out all the sponsors. Click all the links. Go look at everybody. Special thanks to, of course, Sig Sauer today. Of course. We'll get to that. Beretta. We'll get to them. Ruger. Getting that right. Right? So we got a special panel today, an all-star cast. They were just the coolest three guys you could have in one room at one time eating barbecue from Jesse Ray's. Shout out to Jesse Ray's. But now we'll see if they're willing to open up. We got Max Michel, JJ Racazza, and Doug Koenig. What's going on, guys?
What's up, man? Thanks for having us.
Listen, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
I'd like to think so.
How many championships do we have in here? A gazillion?
You know, I don't think any of us want to really talk about it, but I think we have lots.
There's a lot, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of shit in here.
There's a lot
there
here.
is,
yeah.
If we're being real,
A
there's
lot of wisdom. So I want to dive right in with all three of you. Who's the best?
We're scared right now.
Who's the best? The Iceman?
I think in our own world, we all.
I know, right? No, I wanted to see what you'd say. I want to ask you guys right off the bat because I think everybody wants to know. SHOT Show gets canceled. Good thing, bad thing. How do you feel about it, Max? Good, bad, indifferent?
Well, I mean, it's always, obviously, anytime people very much looking forward to doing anything in our industry and it gets shut down due to COVID. So many things over the last probably, what has it been now, 6 to 8 months or whatever it's been, has been a disappointment. You know, whether it's your kids not being able to go to the ballpark to play ball, whether it's your kids not being able to go to school, whether it's you not being able to go to work and make a living. It's been a disappointment everywhere, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that's just disappointed with not having SHOT Show. But I mean, what else? What are you going to do, right? You know what I mean? What are you going to do? So in my opinion, yeah, I mean, you couldn't have the show right now.
Right.
You just can't do it. But it is a disappointment. I mean, anytime I can be home a little longer in the year is a positive thing for me because I travel so much. But at the expense of losing a couple of weeks or losing a big show for the industry, I mean, it hurts. It absolutely hurts.
Right. Jay?
No, I feel the same with Max. It's that it's work, right? And it's a week off of work basically, so it's more time with family. It's the same with Max. We all have this hectic traveling schedule. But the unfortunate side is I was looking forward to meeting with some of the old friends, meeting some new ones. Is always SHOT Show is always that much more interesting because every time I go there, I feel like I'm gaining more and more and getting to know more and more folks in the industry. And so that's what I'm going to be missing out. But however, you know, it's just one of those things that I kind of want my life to start to continue. However, I don't want to risk it for anything else. As what it is, I'm just going to have to play my cards.
Yeah. Doug?
Well, I mean, I think for everybody that typically comes to SHOT Show, it's a time to get to see each other, right? And people they haven't seen sometimes all year long. I mean, other than us guys that compete, the actual industry people, you know, we don't get to see some of our bosses, some of our colleagues. So it's, you know, it's a disappointment from that standpoint. But along with the other guys, I mean, anytime I get extra time to be at home, for me, it's a good thing.
Yeah, you got to take the good with the bad, right? It's just one of them situations that I think, you know, I think the show thing is tough. It's really tough, especially in our business and figuring out where shows fit and what's going to be, I think the new normal across this business is going to be hard, right? It's interesting because we live in such a, we got to touch it, we got to feel it business. We have to go out there. You know, you wonder sometimes the viability of these shows long term and how they'll last and how they'll shake out and how it plays out. I think they got to make some changes at it. I know I have my opinions on it, and I know you've all heard it. I think they got to do something where they got to shake it up. They have to make the stuff upstairs, things people want to actually go see, have panels like this, things like this, and promote them in a way that people can get off the floor and get upstairs and get some valuable information, especially these FFLs, because they need the help more now than ever because of the growth in the business. There's been such tremendous growth. It's important to have an entity like the NSSF. I think we all can agree with that. How they monetize that. It can't be a fucking carnival. It can't be we sell a booth, we make money, and then we go home and we hope you donate during the year or buy a pouch. It can't be there's got to be a better system. There's got to be a better way. And I think we all want that, because the fear is if we lose what we have now that protects us or is trying to help these FFLs, then we have nothing. So we have to work with what we have, but it has to go beyond being a little bit of like hey, we're here to sell booth space, and that's how we make our money. Because I could tell JJ, Max, you've seen it. In the fitness industry, that's how the shows died. They died. So it's a real fear, I think, that's going on. And we'll get to shooting and everything else, but the question becomes, how do you fix it? And I've said this from day one. I think paywalls, I think getting into exclusive content, and I'm going to bring it up because I brought it up with both of you before and get Doug's thoughts. I'd love to see somebody like that step up and create a paywall and put things like the Max Michel experience behind a paywall, and people can tune in and watch it and participate. Why is it so easy for every other industry to get that, but we can't? What do you think, Doug?
I'm not really even sure what you're talking about. I don't even know what a paywall is.
All right, so JJ, you're the resident social expert. What do you think? Because I think that helps the sport tremendously, and I think it can be a gateway. And whether that's the NSSF or the NRA or anybody, are you designing the paywall? Or it's the Max Michel experience designing it? How do we get to a point where we get to a place as an industry where we can carry pro shooting leagues and they can make money beyond just the admission fees, or we can make money beyond just selling a booth?
I mean, if I could just jump in real
Go
quick.
ahead.
I think it goes beyond that, though. I mean, to me, it's not that easy. Until the day that firearms are not a bad thing in our country, that's the issue, right? Until you can see a JJ Racazza or a Doug Koenig on ESPN, right? Until we become mainstream media, until we become kind of the Drew Brees and the Peyton Mannings and the Tom Bradys of the world, because that's what guys like this do. I mean, these guys that are sitting at the table with you, they train just as hard as those dudes. They do it the right way. They're extremely professional in the way they carry themselves, but because they have a firearm and not a football in their hand,
100%.
it's a different game. And until we can make that,
how do we get there, Matt? What's the transition?
For me, I always thought if we can get law enforcement and military guys that we support very much, the three of us that's sitting at this table, we've either served or we've either trained the guys, and we love what they do for our country, and we respect the heck out of those dudes. If we can get them more involved in this, and even if we had LE only competitions or military only competitions, and get more eyes on it to where it's like, oh, this is a competition, this is a sport. Because I can guarantee you the three of us that are sitting at this table, we're sitting here because we treat ourselves as an athlete and we work hard.
100%.
Just as hard as any of those other dudes. But again, firearm, not a football. And I'm not saying anything bad about the football guys. I mean, I'm obviously a huge football fan.
We know.
It's a firearm, right?
Yeah, it's just,
and it's scary to some people.
it's a right. Well, there's a large population that want us to not have our firearms, and because of that, they create this fear image and how guns are bad and the people with guns are bad. So they push that agenda out so that mainstream companies are afraid to be involved with anything to do with firearms, which includes shooting athletes like us.
Right.
I mean, I've tried it for years. I was one of the first guys to have an agent in our sport, and we tried and we tried and we tried outside the industry stuff, and we could just not get people to say, hey, with guns, we just can't touch you. They'll do race car drivers. They'll do anything.
So to me, I think that's where the big, and not to cut Jay off, I know you was asking him, but that's where the biggest disconnect is, in my opinion. How do we make that change? How do we bridge that gap? Is it by getting, like I said, other people involved with us and not just...
See, respectfully, I don't think the military Leo angle's the angle. I think the way it has to start is there's so many people that enjoy the sport of shooting, but they're in the closet about it. So how do you get them to the forefront? I've always, as you know, prescribed to the theory of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So if I can get fitness guys, UFC guys, anybody to just get in front of a microphone and get in front of this wall and just have a dialogue and just say, yeah, I went shooting last week, I loved it.
Yeah.
That's all they got to say.
But that's right. That's all I have to say. But there's a lot of guys out there who you and I have probably both seen on the range that won't say it.
That's right.
100%.
They can't.
Well, they have other
but you have to, but here's
Yeah.
you have to create a medium that's a little more relaxed for them to ease into it and feel okay about it. The problem in our industry is we're so secular, we only go from 0 to cry precision. You know what I mean? It's like 0 to 1,000.
Yeah.
And we have to find a medium that's a relaxing medium.
And this is why I said the LE military side of things, because if I'm a normal guy at home flipping through the channels and I see a military law enforcement competition on television,
Oh, that's hot shit.
and I'm okay with it because
Yeah.
that's what they carry for a living. They're supposed to have that rather than seeing a 18-year-old.
But I think your brain is further ahead than I think where the start is, like how we inch it. Like I think what you're talking about is we're already on TV and there's prize money. We got to get to the point where people are willing to tune in and spectate. Like I've said for the longest time, shooting sports and what you guys do would have a quantum leap in the business if we could find out a way to get the score on the screen.
I think the big thing on that one, the initial start would be like the social media aspect. I think, right? That makes the world a lot smaller. Secondly, I think just desert mag dumps are a good thing.
Oh, blow me. He did that on purpose.
He did it on purpose. Jonathan put him up to it.
I did.
You
My
know,
bucks.
but I have a deep, especially you both know, respect for you guys and what you do. And I have for a long time. And I've said exactly what you just said, Max. If you were holding a football, you'd be making $1 million. Because I believe in if the water levels rise and Doug's making $1 million, you're making $1 million, you're making $1 million, I'm going to do all right too.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to raise the water level. And how we raise it is the tricky part. You got to get through B to get to C. I just don't know what B looks like. But I think you're onto something with the social.
But do you feel like we've broken a lot more walls within the last 10
sure.
years than what it was when you started, Doug? I mean, not you were the pioneer of this one. You're the one that allows us to do what we do nowadays. And you're still around, which is fortunate for all of us to still be able to watch you and mentored by you and all that stuff. So you're still paving that path. But basically, from when you started to what it is now, I feel like it's a lot more open, and I feel like opinions are a lot more stronger on both sides. So it's a kind of a good thing and a bad thing, I guess.
Well, I would say yes and no. I think at different times it has been, popular. In the early years when ESPN used to film
Yeah.
and promote some of the shooting sports with the outdoor games, and the Yankee Cup used to be on ESPN, stuff like that. That was huge to be on a major sports network. And then they got cold feet. I mean, the great outdoor games, they had shotgun shooting, rifle shooting, along with all the timber sports and the dog stuff. I mean, it was an awesome forum. And it just, I don't know if they got pressure. I'm not sure exactly what happened, because it was a big leap for all of us. It was a great opportunity. I mean, we had the finals of the rifle and shotgun on Sunday at noon on ESPN. It was like, wow, it doesn't get any better than that. And then it just, poof, disappeared. So it just, I don't know. I mean, I just kind of see it coming and going, and the social media aspect, I think, is a great way to look at it, except being honest, it scares me that on social media, because we're gun people, we can get censored.
Yes.
And not be able to put our content out and what we do and what we love and why we're passionate about it, and that we're good people. We just like to shoot. It's no different than somebody wants to go play golf or go surf or whatever it is that they like to do. We are responsible. We can go do it and be safe. And, to me, there's nothing more than teaching a kid firearm safety and discipline, and see how they treat those, firearms. They're not out there doing bad stuff. And you can't live and promote everything the way that, everybody, one person that does something wrong, I don't care if it's, drinking and driving with a firearm, whatever they do, that's not everybody. It's not a whole group. So it's just frustrating. And it's, the social media thing kind of scares me. We need our own social media channel for the, shooting sports.
I worry about that, the closed network stuff, other than the paywall system, because I think that speaks to where it's going, because you have to look at the greater path, like where is it going right now? And everybody's cutting the cord on cable, and everybody's going a la carte with their services. So how do you find a streaming medium to get the sport out to bigger audience? That's one, to me. And this is something Jonathan and I have talked a lot about. It's you have to get it. I propose this, and I want to get you guys' thoughts, because I was dead serious when I said it to Jonathan. I said, what we should do is forget about IDPA, IPSC, all that. Let's say you have the NSSF or the NRA, whoever, Ruger, Beretta, it doesn't matter. To anyone listening, they could start this and do what NASCAR did. Pick 5 matches and call it like the sprint for the cup, and give $20,000 or $25,000 in prize money to the top winner for each of those. And then the second place, and then somebody wins the cup, and that's a grander prize, whatever that is. If you can find a way to get the score on the board, I guarantee everybody at this table would compete in it, and everybody would want to compete in it, as long as that was a way to build the streaming. But I look at these giant, massive checks that get written by brands to buy mugs or to buy this. That's a great way to build a paywall and get people to tune in. And you do it by points. First place gets 10 points. Second place gets 9. So at the end of the 5 matches, you crown one pistol champion, one rifle champion, one this. And that's how you build it. That's the genesis. And we're talking about small money. But would you come out and compete if there was a $25,000 top prize?
Heck yeah.
Like that?
Absolutely.
You know what's funny
So
about
I
that?
think companies overthink it is what I'm getting at, Jay.
No, so they tried a little bit of that in Top Shot, right? Where they
Right.
put up a big grand prize. They put it on a major channel, cable news channel. And here's the thing: the good thing about what you're saying is that it's a continuous cycle all throughout the year. And the guys that are on top are going to continue to compete for this sprint to the cup. Is what you're saying, right? So what that builds is from what Top Shot was missing was a sense of following and development to essentially a particular shooter that they would like.
Mm-hmm.
So the Top Shot thing
hero.
where it kind of failed was every year it changed to a different person, a different group, and they had to kind of have some sort of connection again or build that connection. And some people didn't have time to rebuild that.
You got to refall in love.
Right. And it's for that kind of particular thing where you just kind of do it year for year. Max is going to be there. Doug's going to be there. I'm going to be there. And then eventually they'll get to know us and our family because then they can do those biography things. And then there'll be more of a connection to the normal folk because we're just normal people. Right, we just happen to look
And the thing is that I think Doug, I'd love to hear. I think they overthink this. I think it's really simple. I think if you get 20 people to compete in it the first go round, smaller is better. Smaller is better. You want some of the old names. You want some of the new names. You want some of the consistent champions. But smaller is better because then you can kind of follow the stories. And then I said, and we talked about this. I said, put a booth at each stage, almost like a confessional, like in Real World. So Max can go in and be like, yeah, last stage, man, it fucking sucked, whatever. But I just said, make it
It doesn't
fun.
happen, right, Max?
No, never. But make it entertaining, have that entertainment portion of it. And like you're saying, kind of fall in love with the people. But if you keep it tight, I'm going to give a football analogy for Max. If you're bad, play fast. If you're worse, play faster. So do it tight, 5 episodes, get a bunch of people to sign up or enroll. I'm going to tell you right now, if Ruger did that, Sig did that, or Beretta did that, and I know some of the executives, especially there, you'd get 10,000 people to sign up for that paywall tomorrow and be a part of it. And the amount of content you could pull out of it would be amazing. And if you charge $9.99 a month like anything else, it would make money. And then these marketing departments would start making money, and that's what I'm getting at. It would start to fuel things and move things forward to begin to perpetuate more for you guys. What do you think, Doug?
Well, it sounds like a good idea. I mean, I just don't know
The viability of it.
The viability of it, and you've got to have the promotion around it, of course.
Yeah.
To get it out there, to get normal folks, you've got to use that FFL network. The Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, those people where you have customers coming in to gun shops and things like that, to where they find out about it first, right? They have an idea that this is going on. They know where to look, that they know there's a forum for it.
Yeah. What do you think, Max?
Well, I mean, like I said from the start, I mean, getting to be the mainstream part of this, right, is always a challenge. And as Jay was saying, getting people to follow us, whether it's, doing it every year, you're changing out people, personnel. I mean, that's why this NASCAR stuff and these other things are so popular, right? Because I can follow a guy for a long time.
Fall in love with him.
Right. And I can follow him from, and going back to the football stuff, I can follow a guy from high school. Now my boy's in high school football, so he tells me about all these, 5-star athletes and this and that. And then now we can track them as they go through college. And some of the kids my boy trains with in college is getting ready to go to the pros. So you follow these guys, you start creating these stories with these guys. Why can't we do it with guys like Doug, right? Who's been there forever, guys like myself and JJ and other guys, and let these folks be able to follow us through that process. But I mean, at the end of the day, you just have to have the ability to be able to speak to these people. If we can't speak to them,
Right.
I don't know how we grow this, to be honest with you. And I love what I do, and I'm very fortunate to be one of the guys that get to do it for a living. But there's probably, besides the folks sitting at this table, there's probably maybe 5 other dudes, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a lot of people out there who are passionate about it. A lot of people who want to do well at it and want more. But there's just not that much availability out there as far as jobs. And the minute that one of us something happens, we slip up and somebody's they're ready to come and get that job right away. But here's the other big part of that is if one of us does make a mistake, and this is why our industry is so big but so small, is the minute that one of us pro shooters make a mistake, well, now we're all that, right? So all the other 4 or 5 of us are like, well, wait, do we even need a pro anymore? Like Doug and I have talked about this a lot about making sure there needs to be SIG and Ruger, Beretta. These guys need teams. We need people to, like as you were saying before, right? If these guys get on board, people will follow. So we need the big names to have the pro shooters, and if they're not out there, it's going to be an issue. So we need people to continue to be a part of the pro shooting world. And we need the big companies to see the big picture in us. And it's not just about pulling a trigger. That's the other thing, too. So, like, I don't want this thing just to be about competitive shooting. Competitive shooting is cool, but that's not really how I make a living. I mean, it is, but it isn't, right? So I think we need to make sure that we're more than just pro shooters also. We're dudes out there that are helping develop product and bring, we're ambassador for the company.
I can honestly say the 3 of you guys are hands down, and I know everyone in this room will nod their head yes. Our 3 are probably the best spokespeople. It's like you said, it's what you do off the range that makes you amazing. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that to stroke you guys. I'm not. It's just what you do, the way you carry yourself, the way you carry a brand. I didn't know Doug as well as I know both of you, but I've seen him in action. I mean, consummate professionals. And that's the way you got to be if you're going to be out in the forefront, And it's a tall task, and it's going to take some turning of the ship. And I know we always hear it when we talk to companies, we're a ship and we're turning and we're trying to get it right. We hear that all the time. And I think it's right there. I think the solution's easier than the problem. But I think it's just a matter of making a decision and going into it and funding it properly. And I think when I see what I see in pro shooting, that secular setup, you got IDPA and all its greatness, IPSC, you got to have all the different stuff. That's all great. I think you got to boil off all the fat and create something simple that feeds into that.
Well, what do you think about that? And you guys probably know better than I do, but the what was the three gun nation?
Mm-hmm.
Or tactical games?
There's tactical games in 3-Gun Nation.
What happened with 3-Gun Nation? Because I was never a part of that, but what happened with it?
I don't know.
I think the big thing on that one was, from what I heard, it
funding?
was in a network, and then the network started to require other things, and they started wanting to change the program, and then they lost funding out of it. Just lost the following, basically.
Because that's kind of what you were talking about, how to do that, and there was maybe a small group of guys that were going around shooting these competitions, and it was like $50,000 to the winner, I think.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, I remember it, but I think one, it was poorly funded, wasn't set up the right way. I think 2, they still couldn't figure out the score thing. The score thing's huge. Go back, Max, you're a football guy. When they figured out how to put the score on football, the ratings went up like 80%.
Right, because everybody can follow it.
You can follow it.
So
you can just put the channel on, you can follow it. If I know Doug's in 3rd and I hate you, I'm rooting for Doug.
Right, but if you don't know, if you don't even know what the rules are, you don't know how to root for me.
That's correct.
Yeah, so that's like right now our sport is so, like, it's hard to understand what the scoring system is, and I try to explain it to guys all the time, and it's never going to work. If I try to explain it to somebody who's outside of the sport, they're going to get super bored and not want to be a part of it.
To me, the score is critical. You got to find a way to get a leaderboard.
So something that I liked,
absolutely,
and something that I liked years ago is when I watched you guys shoot the
time.
Yeah, it was like timed, steel. Like it was similar to the Pro-Am, but it was way back in the like you guys were at Pyro,
ESPN.
California.
Yeah, that's
ESPN
right.
stuff. Yeah, so
that's right.
Like there's maybe 30 pieces of steel in the course of fire. You got 20 seconds, ready, go. He knocks down 28. He knocks down 29 or whatever. So that's something you can follow to go to the next stage. So this guy's got 367 points. This guy's got 352 points. Whatever. You can see targets getting knocked down, falling down. That's exciting for people to watch at home. It just never picked up. We had the sport called the Pro-Am for a little while, and it was pretty big prizes for a bit, and it meant something to win it, and then it just all of a sudden stopped.
I think what you're saying, John, right, it's kind of cool, is that you're trying to take it away from the network and the cable.
Forget about that.
Yeah, you're kind of trying to go towards more of a subscription type thing online. Right? Is that what you were talking about?
A paywall.
I'm sorry, I didn't know exactly what it was called.
Well, because think of it like this, right?
So I'm not the only one.
No. For the gray hair in the room.
I saw you look at me. When you asked that question.
So
like,
hey, listen, I've earned this gray hair, dog.
That's right. It's the seasoning. So you have things like WWE Network, right?
Yep, that's ESPN+.
Whether you call it an app, whether you call it a paywall, it's a paywall. You pay money, you get a service.
I get it.
Gotcha.
So you have to create something that's all encompassing and less invasive, right? So I'll pay a compliment to somebody I've taken big shits on. So you have Recoil TV, right? Which the problem in our industry is they can't get through their thick head is like at Recoil, we don't care if you make the content. The content has to be made from the outside and brought in. So if you're like, I don't want to pay someone to create and make content for me. We have to feed that engine like YouTube. Think about how YouTube's fed. We feed YouTube. That's why YouTube pays us to put stuff on YouTube, right? So what Rico should do is create an open platform. I've said this 100 times. I've listed it on LinkedIn. Anyone who, I put this stuff on there. I'm like, one, it should be an open platform that we feed it, okay? So if we're feeding it, then it's getting all that content for free instead of them trying to create content. Because they're just, what ends up happening is SIG gives them $500,000. So they end up doing a glorified ad. And if I wanted to watch an ad, I could just go to SIG's channel and watch an ad. I want to see programming. So when you go to successful channels like Red Bull TV, which is a paywall, do you ever see a can of Red Bull?
Just branding, I guess.
Just branding. It's just entertainment. The idea is to get people to come there and stay. Right. And then eventually have it feed the meter. So if I see Doug running around and he's shooting a Ruger and he's hot shit and maybe he puts the gun down and tells me a story by the campfire because he likes to hunt and he's got the costume on, I'm going to be like, this guy's cool. Like, I want to go buy whatever he's selling. That's how marketing is made. You fall in love with the person. I don't necessarily fall in love with a race car driver because his foot is so far down the pedal, or I don't fall in love with a guy because he can hit home runs. That becomes penis envy. I fall in love with him because I love what he stands for, what he's doing. But you only learn that when you put the gun down and tell a story. To know you, to love you, isn't you shooting a gun. To know you and love you isn't you shooting a gun. And the same with you.
Right.
It's what we're doing right now. But we fail at it so bad in this business because we constantly strive to be secular. Every other podcast, every other thing that exists in this business is, Doug, tell me how fucking badass you are. How many people did you kill? We're 4, so caught up in that. I mean, shoot holes in it if you, I mean, but it's true. We're so caught up in that, like,
yep.
Jay, tell me I'm lying.
No, you're right.
Doug?
Yeah, absolutely.
If we get to a point where we're just having conversations about what we love, what we like to do. You were telling me you started talking about how you like hunting and that's the shit you want to hear. When you talk about your kids playing football and you and I go back and forth and we talk about nutrition and training, that's the stuff I love. But we're so caught up. And any other podcast you guys go on, I promise you, they're going to be like, Max, how many rounds? How many rounds do you sleep on at night?
No, we've had this conversation before, you and I. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, when I did the podcast last time, I remember when I left, I was like, I don't think he really asked me any gun questions. I don't think we even talked about, like, I didn't get to anything, but yeah.
You didn't get to pimp anything.
I mean, what do you want to hear? The Romeo? What do you want to hear? Like, you know, and it's got to be less invasive is my point.
Right, for sure.
You know, it's got to be less invasive. I could sit here all day and be like, Doug, tell me how light the new gun is. Is it 0.5 or is it 0.4?
Exactly.
To me, that's not moving the needle, you know? I know JJ tunes the shit out of his triggers. I don't need to see a video.
Not this gun.
I mean, I'd be more interested in like what you guys do in off-season training. Yeah, have you seen?
Right.
So, you know,
absolutely.
we have to get to a looser construction. You know,
Yep.
I said this a bunch of times, and you can relate to that. You've heard me say this, what I'm about to say. What Joe Rogan did for the MMA world, people will never fully understand. Because he was the first, when MMA was running around and everybody thought it was just guys killing people in a cage, he was putting them on the radio and they were in the podcasting world and people just started to get to know the fighters.
Right.
And they realized they were normal people trying to make it in a sport and trying to make a living. And we could debate all day about them making a living in the sport and how that's set up, but that's a different story in another podcast. But I think we have to get to that, Jay. We have to get to where you want to get to know the person. Because ultimately, if these companies are paying you to shoot a gun, how long is your shelf life?
Well, that goes back to what I said earlier. It's not just about winning.
Right.
It's about who we are as people.
Yep.
And I think, for instance, for me personally, I know I work for an amazing company, SIG, and I get to go to a lot of cool places, see a lot of cool things. And
Hi, Tom.
And the products that we make there, I mean, it's incredible. Right, 10 years ago, we were a 226 company, essentially. We were a pistol company. And now look at us. We're making pistols, rifles, optics, ammo. I mean, you name it, it's there, right? So... and accessories for all these other companies who are trying to put products out there. You know, it's
amazing.
I mean, it's neat, right? But yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, for me to kind of look back at someone like myself in the beginning of the sport, Robbie, stuff like that, and how companies treated us and what they looked at us, what our purpose was. And there's been different situations. There's definitely been times where I know the only reason I was there is because I was winning. And now I feel really fortunate with Ruger that it's more than that. It's about me. It's about what I'm about, who I'm about. It's about the knowledge that I have from the years, 30 plus years of experience shooting all different guns, all different competitions. The thing I tell everybody is, as a competitive shooter, at least from my, perspective, I don't have a race car, a mechanics crew follow me to every match and work on all my guns. I have to figure it out on my own. I have to use gunsmiths and learn some stuff on my own so I can fix my own stuff, clean my own stuff, work on my own stuff. So there's a knowledge base that you get from doing that. So for me, fortunately, now that's how I'm utilized, for what I know. But there's definitely been times and situations where, we're just athletes. We're just a piece of meat. What can you do? How, what have you just won for me? You didn't win this year? Oh, we got this other new kid who just won something. It's like, well, okay, he won one thing. I've won 20. I mean, when is enough? When can you utilize me for who I am and what I know and how I can, help you out?
100%. 100%. But I think it's just, I think we could talk it in circles, right? But I think it's just a matter of someone has to step up, and it's kind of like someone has to be the adult in the room and make the decision and say, this is the direction we're going to go. And I think with COVID and everything else that's happened, that's exacerbated all these moves towards making, whether it's marketing departments or shooting leagues, COVID proof, you have to find another way for this industry to draw income. We need more gas. We need more fuel. We need more support. We need more people to come in. Because if we're going to try to make it on just bullets and guns, we're out of those. We're out. So we can keep manufacturing and chasing that weasel, just like companies can keep selling boot space. But we are fools if we don't start developing out the things that you guys do and building that into something. Major League Baseball doesn't become Major League Baseball, or the NFL doesn't become the NFL without the right fuel behind it. So somebody has to eventually say, this is the direction we have to go to fuel this.
It's tough too because we are professionals in our sport, but it's an amateur sport, and it's because it hasn't been
evolved,
fueled, right? It hasn't evolved.
Absolutely.
So that's what's tough, and even from a standpoint from the range officials that we have, which we love our guys, but everybody's volunteers.
Volunteers.
They're not being paid to be there. So when it's day 8 and they're in the sun and it's hot as heck, and Doug goes and shoots a course of fire, and they say, it's close enough, or they maybe not making the right call because they've been there for so long, they're exhausted, and they just maybe don't want to just check it just a little harder, right? Some of the guys in that field do it for a living, the shooters, and that's what's challenging because you're a professional in an amateur sport, and it becomes difficult to elevate the professionals if us as an organization is looked at as an amateur sport.
What you say hits home. I take it personally because as a guy who's been, 4-time marketing director, comms guy, CEO, I've said it 100 times. Rising tides raise all ships. We have to elevate the stage for you. And how do we elevate the stage for you guys? How does Jonathan elevate the stage for you? Because he and I have talked about this for hours. You have to eventually get in a room and you have to say, listen, everyone has to stop. All the baloney needs to stop. We're gonna execute a good plan that works. We're going to get into spaces that we're not in. And this is going to hit home. This will make sense to you. I've said it 9,000 times. We got a lot of smart people in this business. But the fact that there's like a 12-year-old or 8-year-old kid opening presents making $18 million a year on YouTube, and we can't figure out how to put shooting on streaming, then we got some pretty dumb people in this business too. Because it's not that fucking hard. Because a little girl can do it with a cell phone and make $100,000 a year on Twitch. Right now. But and I don't have to say this, it's not you guys, but there's no middle class in shooting. There's a lot of guys out there starving, spending, 30 grand a year to shoot, 40. But we can't figure out streaming in this sport. It's easier than that. And I want to see it for all you guys. That's the dream. And I know it's his dream too. And I know it's a lot of guys because that's the platform. You have to elevate the platform, Max, Absolutely. Getting it there is the hard part. I think we have seen great strides. there's been great evolutions in the business, but do we really need to spend $600,000 on a booth? Or could we put that money into something that actually generates a reoccurring revenue? If you ran your checkbook that way, you'd be broke.
Mm-hmm.
So so I want to see that happen. I don't want to harp on this to the bitter end of the show, but I want to see that happen for you guys. And I don't think, somebody could comment below, but I don't think another podcast has been put together with this many, what I consider SMEs, to chime in on it. But I think, I love that. SMEs. Subject matter experts. Mag dumps in a desert.
That's it.
But I think you guys do kind of see the path or see what can be done or what's possible. And it's a matter of just making it possible. I thought the NRA had a great opportunity back in the Ackerman McQueen days to go that route. Instead, they paid people to be pundits. I mean, I guess that was the way to go.
Right.
But I thought they had a great opportunity to do it, Doug. You
Absolutely.
know? With the money spent there, if you gave me $1 million, I'd build you a hell of a league.
Well, I think what I've seen, I mean, I just keep looking back on situations, matches, events. Even though there are some people in the industry that do really respect what we do as shooting athletes, but I still don't think they ever put us or think of us as the top athletes in other sports. And an NRA is a prime example. I mean, we obviously need NRA for the legislative side to help, fight all this stuff. But they've had opportunities. They've had some great matches. They've had tons of great shooters come through, and they just fluff it off. They've never really promoted the shooting sports that the NRA should be the one promoting the shooting
leader.
sports. They should be in the that should be their focus. And now it's not even on the radar screen.
And I think we all have the most respect for, Jason and the Isla side and what they do. And I love those guys, but I think the reality is somebody, NRA, NSSF, IDPA, somebody has to be the big boy in the room and say, this is the direction we're going to go, and we're going to get it funded, and we're going to do it right, and we're going to bring in the right people to run it, and we're going to get it done. But you can't tell me that there's an 8-year-old kid opening presents that's smarter than everybody in those rooms. You cannot tell me that, because that should terrify everybody here. Or there's a girl on OnlyFans showing her feet making $50,000 a month.
That's a dude, isn't it?
I don't even know what that
kidding.
is.
But you know what I'm saying? You can't tell me that. So
Pay $39.99 to find out.
yeah. But you can't tell me, because that makes no sense to me. We're better than that. We have better people around us. And ultimately, it's going to take somebody stepping up somewhere and saying, this is how we're going to do it, and this is where it's going to go. I mean, I think we're reaching the end of that crop of hires, Doug, that's like, oh, but he's a good guy. He's going to run this. He's a nice guy.
He does magnums in the desert.
Whatever. I mean, it's unbelievable, really. So, to switch topics, because I'll get down a wormhole on this and get really bitter, but I think COVID has pushed a lot of these things forward and forced a lot of people to rethink how they do things, how they do their marketing, how they do their planning, how they plan their year. I know it's probably affected all of you at this table and what you're doing and how you go through your process and everything else. I mean, I think that's probably going to be a good thing for the industry, because it's forcing them to look at other areas and other things to do. But the manufacturing run is really insane. I mean, can you Max, I know some of the internals at SIG, and it's wild, right? Like, there's just nothing there, right? I mean, it's 6 months for everything. I mean, do you see it correcting itself, or do you see it just getting worse?
I still think at this point things are going to get worse before they get better. I mean,
worse in a good way too. In a way.
And I also think some of it we do to ourselves in the industry. Meaning, ammo is scarce as it is. Guys are going to put ammo online for $1,000 a case now.
Right.
We're doing it to ourselves at the same time. You know what I mean? So we got to also make sure we're taking care of our buddy. But yeah, things are gonna take a while to come back. It just is. And you asking, from a COVID standpoint, I think we all went through that phase in March, like, what's going to happen? Don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to keep doing my thing till I'm told I can't do something. And then, April, May timeframe hits and everything shuts down. Then you're depressed. You're thinking about, what am I going to do? What can I do? You start like everybody else. Stock market goes down. Sponsors are not paying. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening at that point. And
Absolutely.
You're getting scared. You're getting worried. And then I said exactly what you said a second ago. It's like, you just figure it out, right? When you get scared, you hit adversity, something goes wrong. You're not just going to quit. You're going to figure it out. But it took me a couple of months to get there. I got to be honest. I was a little depressed and a little bit worried for a while. And then I just started hitting the range. I had nothing else to do.
Did the range get you through the depression?
Absolutely. And I had the best year of my career. And I'm not getting any younger. And I had the best year of my career this year. You know what I mean? Like, and it was because I got to work on me. I had this conversation with JJ a few weeks ago. I'm like, man, this is great. You got to do what I'm doing right now. Because this guy goes all over the place. He went from one place to another place to get here, and then he's going to another place. He's all over. But so I was just trying to tell him, you got to try to work on you at some point. It's awesome. I got way better this year. So I'm not saying COVID's a positive thing. I'm just saying that I found a way to make it positive for me.
Of course, yeah.
And I had no other option. I had to do that. Yeah. What else was you going to do?
Well, I think it gave all of us an opportunity to take a step back, realize what's important. All of a sudden, you get that family time. You get a time to reflect. And same thing for me. It was like, geez, what are we going to do? And I had, everybody at Ruger saying, oh, listen, we understand what's going on. If you're concerned about travel, we're still all good. Just, you don't have to feel pressure to go out. But I'm like, I'm a shooter. This is what I do, So I spent a lot more time working on equipment, getting things ready, doing some training, because we do get so busy doing a lot of things for our partners that we forget to do stuff that we need to do is what got us there.
Right.
You just all the little stuff.
Yeah. You just fight to stay current when you're with all your partners, right? And then when you have an opportunity to work on you, now you can get better.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you?
It was interesting.
You had a move. You had crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, that's a crazy year. I moved halfway across the country. Actually, no, fully.
All the way.
All the way across the country, the other side of the country.
English isn't his first language.
Basically we had that. I told Jess, because we were trying to fit. Well, she does such a good job at managing my schedule. But
thank God.
Yeah, she was able to fit 8 months of scheduling in 3 months. So basically, I was telling these guys, I was like, since at the end of June till now, I had over 100 stays in hotel nights. I just saw it the other day. And I'm like, that kind of made me sad, because that's like 1/3 of the entire year. And I did it in 3 months or 4 months, right? MA isn't supposed to be able to count, but whatever. Just give or take there, right?
You get flagged for racism.
and really, it's true, though. It's not racist. It's just true. And it's an Asian saying it. So anyway.
Damn you.
So anyway, it's just that I had one moment in time that when I finally got home one time, and I was just forced to sit there because I didn't have anything else to do. I had 2 days home. And I remember I sat there being able to work with my equipment, like what Doug was saying. And I remember looking at Jessica, I haven't had that in so long, to just sit there on my own, working on my gun, not other people's gun, not for anyone else, just for me. And I devoted 4 hours, and I got so many things done. And that's actually how I was able to shoot nationals, because I had those 2 days to put together the gun that I needed to shoot for nationals.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to say, right? Because Max hit the nail on the head, and you don't want to say COVID was a positive, but you try to make a positive out of a negative.
100%.
And hearing you all say that and share that story, I hope to everyone listening it's helpful. And I hope they understand you can take whatever adversity you go through, whether it's maybe right now you're short of money, you don't have the ammo. I know a lot of you guys are putting dry fire content out there, which is fucking awesome. I mean, my hat's off to all you guys. And you're putting it out there free. Hey, check this out. Hopefully this helps you. And I just hope a lot of people do use it as a chance, because I think what you're all saying is get back to basics. Get back to what got you there. Dance with the girl you took to the prom.
Absolutely.
And enjoy it and kind of respect that. Okay, maybe I was going 1,000,000 miles an hour. Maybe I got to key it back a click and use this as a reboot. I knew once COVID hit, because you know what an advocate I've been of these types of platforms. I did 61 podcasts in 64 days initially, and then started, I'm at 320 some odd episodes or whatever it is at this point, because I used it as an opportunity to say, hey, I can't have people in, I'm going to have them call in. And I had built this all out, and I started to explore COVID-proof ways of doing media, because the way I've always approached it was, I want to be able to prove my theories when I get in the boardroom, so I can say, no, it works because I've done it, and here's the sample. And I only can hope that the things that I try and do are things that the industry can take as templates and put out into the universe and say, you can do this. You can use a platform like this. You can create a platform like this. You can create different avenues. Stop looking and just seeing Instagram, or just seeing this, or just seeing that. We got to open up a couple other fronts and create. because we can't rely on social media now because of the political fallout with it at this point. And do we see Instagram even surviving this in the firearms? It's a real valid question because everybody's hopping on Parler or this or that. I mean, Doug, we were talking a little politics. It's not politics. It's just more the reality of social media. Does social media survive this?
Right. I don't know if it does.
I don't know if we have an answer, but I mean, I always hated Instagram, and you all, well, especially you two know this at the table, because I always thought it lacked context. I can see Max do this, bang, 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 and that's cool. But I always wanted to hear like the after. Like it took me 97 takes to, I wanted to hear like the story that went along with that cut. I always thought it was too short. I wanted more. But I think we're in a unique point, and how social media shakes out of this is going to be really interesting, Doug.
Absolutely right.
I mean, I don't know if it's going to last. I don't know how it plays out. I mean, JJ, you're the resident social media guru. Does the gun industry survive this, at least on Instagram?
I'm the worst person to ask that.
Come on.
I'm the worst. I'm worried about my own world and my family.
But
social media.
But does it? But does yours, like, does someone come in and say, oh, we're going to cut this away? Is there, I don't know.
See, I'm an optimist, so I always think like the world's going to continue to turn.
Be an optimist.
I'm going to continue to take another step.
Be an optimist.
Yeah. Do whatever you want.
Well,
But you're wrong.
I kind of look
But
at
you're
it maybe a little different. I mean, I look at it as, do we from this industry support those current platforms that, that kick us down? I mean, why are we doing that? Why are we making them money? Why are we promoting them? We need our own platform, or somebody needs to create that for what we do, right? I mean, if we're going to be censored, or we're only going to be allowed to show certain things, or sometimes you try to, me as a hunter, you take a picture, you just got done a hunt, you do a little video, you show something, well, you can't show the animal, or you can't show that. Well, I mean, people that hunt know what that looks like. This is what we do, and we, it's not for the true hunter. It's not about the kill. It's about the whole thing, the whole process. And I care about what I eat, and I can't tell you the last time I bought any beef. I mean, it's venison, elk. I mean, that's what I eat. Is what I kill. Is what I eat. So it's important to me. And I mean, why would you be offended? I think people that don't hunt need to go see how the food that they do eat is made and processed.
Amen.
Maybe they might think a little bit different. So, to me, it frustrates me with the way things are going. And I feel, just me personally, I don't know how much of that social media stuff of my content I want to put on to help. And yeah, it promotes me, promotes my partners, but why do I want to be on those platforms? They shit all over us.
That's a good point. I guess, the counterpoint to that could only be, if you go to a closed platform, the hard part is sometimes, Doug, are you reaching the largest audience that you could?
Yeah, you're limiting the reach to
I
only the.
I agree with that,
yeah.
but is our reach even going to be there if we're censored?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they're not letting us do what we do,
Yeah.
and show who we are and what we believe, and we're good dudes, we're good people, we're family people. We like to shoot, we like guns. Like the hunt.
Yeah, that's a hard one. It's so
It is.
hard.
I think it's a two-way street, right? Like we're all gun guys here, so we only usually interact with other gun pages and shooters. We kind of it's this better than I do. In social media, if you start commenting on certain posts like the fitness industry or some politicking industry or the fighting industry, they start to cross communicate and they start seeing this, and then if you're consistent with it, it starts to kind of cross-pollinate. But for us right now, we're kind of close community to begin with. We just comment and like other people. We're not really as active as we need to be to begin with, I feel like. So that's kind of like a two-edged sword, right? Like two-way street. We need to go reach out as well as we expect for us to be spread out instead of muted. I don't know. That's just how I feel like. I feel like I'm getting reached out a lot more recently in social media with random people. And at one point, someone took over my Instagram and just started commenting, blasting comment everyone. And I'm like, how did it grow 5,000 people? And he's like, because we did this. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I can't believe that interaction amongst other people. But I couldn't sustain it by myself because we were getting about 100 messages almost every 2 to 3 days. And how do you sustain that? So if there's no communication from me, they just think it's a dead end. So they stop communicating and they just stop following it. So it becomes essentially, I don't know what it's called, a ghost follower or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one, Max. You've always been interesting on social media because you'll put a lot of family time and a lot of personal stuff on there. And I think that's a good thing in so many ways because people get to peek a little behind the curtain. Like, I like when you put, like, you're at a Saints game or something, you know, like that. And I think that there's something to that. But it's all interesting points. How we expand this, how we get more guns in people's hands in terms of getting them just to understand the sport, the lifestyle, everything, reduce the stigma, and create conversations.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I wish I had I don't, you know, but I think at this table, I think a lot of good points will continuously get raised. And, you know, Max, I know you see it out there all the time because you're constantly speaking and at the forefront of all the brands you've ever worked with. And I can't imagine the amount of people that come up to you and say, I got into this because of this, you know, or this is what got me into this, especially with a brand like SIG. It's you know, almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? Energizing to have someone come up to you and say, I started shooting a couple months ago. Like, I had a DJ in here, big Vegas DJ. He's like, just started buying, what, June, Rory? Something.
Yeah, you know, it was June. He bought his first firearm in June.
Yeah, and he's in here just loving it. And I know you get that a lot at SIG because you spend a lot of booth time on the ground. And how do we get more of that?
Well, I mean, not to bring politics into this, but I think that's happening naturally right now.
Right.
I mean, I think more people are becoming gun owners, and I think we've all seen that. You know, I think that's just going to continue to grow. And as more people realize that they need and want firearms to protect themselves and their loved ones,
Got to water that grass.
Absolutely.
they're gonna need the training behind it as well. But I think you're gonna see a lot more people, and you already do, you know, switching the firearms and getting but it's just getting those people, like you said earlier, are they saying that they're, you know, are they
Closet.
telling the world, closet gun guys.
Mm-hmm.
The industry, right? It's like, depending on the industry, if they're
How do we pull them in and hug them? You know, because one of the problems we've had at the FFL level for a long time, it's not a shot at FFLs, we talked openly with it about FFLs on the show, is the way it used to be was you walked in an FFL and they're like, hey, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you? How did you get here? That's why we had trouble cracking the women's market, because it was a guys war. It was intimidating.
Absolutely.
You know? But those walls are starting to come down a little bit because, you know, the money through the register is a good thing. We just have to hope and pray, especially right now at the ground level, that the FFLs do what's right with the money that's coming in at this point. And then it trickles upward, right? So you make sure that the manufacturers are spending it the right way in the right areas to water that grass. The distributors, we can get them stocked and it can filter down. That's to avoid what we talked about, Max, which is, you know, that log jam, 6 months out on orders, another 6. And,
Crazy.
You know, we're 18 months before we're even normal if it all stopped today.
That's if we're lucky.
I mean, I'm pretty fair in saying that that's a fair number, right? And you'd say if we're lucky, Jay, right?
Yep.
I'd say at least that, right? Because we got what? 5 million new gun owners that we know about?
Easily.
That's what I was, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it was up to 6 million recently.
Yeah. Anyone else got another figure? We're like 5, 6.
I'm going to go with 6.2.
Yeah. But how do we water that? You know, that's the $1 million question, Doug, right? Like, how do we take them in and hug them? Where do we begin?
Question. I don't know.
Where do you begin? Where does Ruger begin? Where does, you know, how do we do that? You guys are too far along because you're like the fucking Mr. Wizards of the business, you know? You're too far. But does it start with videos like, you know, like Julie does, Galoob? Does it start with like simple stuff? First time gun owner, whatever. It's a start, right? You got to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the answer to bring these markets in? The black market, the women's market, Hispanic,
Asians.
You already dominate the sport. Stop it. Fuck.
More.
You guys are dug in this business like ticks. You're already here. Okay, we don't need to open more doors. You're already here.
You just said you want to water it.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a real question, right? And I think you guys are doing that inadvertently with some of the dry fire stuff and some of the stuff you're putting out there. But how do we take care of those that are new to the business? What's the first step, you know? Where does it begin?
A mag dump in the desert.
You could be, actually, you know, you want to know something? You might not be wrong about that.
Well,
Simple
it does
market,
attract,
simple,
though.
yeah.
It does attract certain folks.
Maybe
but I
it
feel
starts
like
at a
it's not as
simple level,
effective.
right?
Yes, yeah.
Well, how many people go out and buy guns and the first thing they want to do is go out to the desert and do a magnum?
Well, the first thing they
Just get it out of
realize,
their system.
Yeah.
Just to get it out of their system.
I know
Just 'cause
you
they've
guys
seen it
will
done
appreciate
50
this.
times.
The first thing they realize is it's not full auto. That's what they realize. And then they realize what ammo costs. So
Absolutely
Sit down.
right.
They go, my gun's broken. It's not going off.
once those two things hit, they're like, oh, shit. Wow. $29 just flew down the range. That's always the first thing. I'll click, you know, I got to take 2 boxes next time. But, you know, but it's maybe it's that simple, Jay. You know, it's like start with something simple and then maybe it's simple, you know, little by little baby steps to get into these people and educate them because we want to keep them.
Absolutely, we want to keep them.
And the how we keep them is the trick, right? And how we take them in is the trick. How do we get them from 1 to 3? And I want to throw this is a little, not really political, but with all these new gun owners, does it surprise you that kind of like the whole issue on guns melted into the disappeared
Didn't hear a word about it.
because they didn't have data on who those people were. So it scared the shit out of the left to talk about it, right? So everyone stayed a million miles an hour from the gun issue down the stretch of the election. It's interesting, Doug, wasn't
Big
it?
time.
COVID
Big
kept
time.
it busy, though.
It sure did. Right.
You know, and I think how it plays out is now we just have to figure out, 1, who those people are, which we'll get data on that as time goes on, and 2, how do we take them in? And like I've said before, I think one of the downsides of this business has always been that need to instantly become secular, which has always scared me.
Well, I think that one of the biggest things is we need to let them know that self-protection isn't the only reason that they have to have their firearm. They can go out and sport shoot and just, you know, generally shoot and just have a good time. You know, so it's a good social recreational event.
Yeah.
You don't have to just buy something because, oh, I got to protect myself. I mean, that's, you know, there's too much of that always been pushed, that it's about the fear part of it, that's the only thing. And it's great to be able to protect your family. That's the absolutely deal. But there's that, and I think that was my frustration, or has been, with the NRA. When I get back to that, is the fact that it's always been the fear angle. Fear.
Always on defense, no offense.
Yeah, it's never been like, hey, you know what? It's great. You have a gun for self-protection, but guess what? We've got these 22 rimfire leagues. We've got this. We've got that. Bring your kids. Bring your wives. You know, come out. It's a family deal, and have fun. Just do that, you know, and promote it that way. And then that's how you get that started. And then those people then want to become Max, Michel, Doug Koenig, Rob, you know, they see it now and they start to get hungry for the information. They do start doing their own research, and then they want to maybe, hey, I'd like to do a little, you know, I saw at this range they had steel targets. Hey, what's that about? Right? But up to that point, it's just, oh no, you got to get this for self-protection. That's it. Well, I mean, for me, it's always been way more than that.
Yep.
Always been.
I'd be curious to know the statistic on how many of those gun owners that are new gun owners actually took that firearm out and learned how to use it properly versus taking
Being
it
a
home
collector
and putting it in the closet in case something bad happens.
Yeah.
So
I think it wouldn't be very many, right? I mean, hopefully these guys are getting the training that they want and need with it. And like Doug said, if you're taking it out recreationally, guess what? You're getting training with it. And you're getting good at it. You're getting proficient with it. Same reason why I always say law enforcement and military guys, I love when they come out to shoot with us in competitions, because it tells you who you are really quickly about you and your gear and your equipment. And I have a lot of friends who's been gun owners for a long time, and I try to take them out, even if it's just once a month, one Friday a month. I try to take out a few of the dads from school, you know, from my kids' school, just to take them out and to get them on the range, because they're not going to go otherwise. Maybe they don't have a place to go to. Maybe they don't feel comfortable going somewheres on their own. And I just go over some of the firearm safety stuff and let them shoot, let them hit some steel targets for a little while, and that's training in itself.
Absolutely.
and that's free.
Free 50.
Yeah, normally
They're
getting 3,000 an hour. Fuck, it's amazing. That reminds me of a story about JJ. When you first started instructing and teaching, you were like making rates up and
Making rates.
Making it all up.
yeah. It's when you start out
Thank
because it's
goodness for
hard to
Max.
figure out what you're worth, right?
Yeah.
Which leads to a whole nother topic when you talk to these companies and people are coming up and they want to be you guys. Honestly, they want to be you guys. It's hard to give them advice to figure out your value, right? You guys obviously transcend the business and offer so much more than, as we talked about, just what you do on the range. But to maybe some of the guys out there that maybe are trying to figure out what is an hour with me worth, or what is an hour with a good instructor worth, or how do I seek out brands? How do I work with a company in the best way? What's the best way to do it? What's the best approach? Because gone are the days of like, hey, I got 10,000 followers on IG, give me a free muzzle break. Like, it doesn't work that way anymore.
Thank goodness.
Thank
I know.
goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Oh, I'm glad you said it. Amen. But what advice do you give to those guys? Because you get, 10 of them at every SHOT Show every day, 20 of them.
It's hard. Like I said before, there's not many of these jobs that go around. I mean, look at Doug. Doug's been around for as long as he has because he's a true professional and he's the type of person that you want to associate with, right? And he wins at the highest level. How are you going to come take his job?
Can't.
There's not that many out there.
He's bulletproof at this point.
And the thing is I mean, he really is bulletproof, right?
I mean it.
And the deal is that our industry, yes, like I said before, it's a big industry, but it's also very small. So once I don't want to say once you're in, you're always in, but if I'm another company and something happens with Doug and he goes and becomes a free agent, let's say, well, he's a known commodity and I know he's going to be a true professional. I know he knows what the heck he's going, what's going on and what he's supposed to be doing. So if I'm a VP somewhere, I want him. I don't want the unknown. I don't want the unknown that might make a mistake somewhere that could potentially tarnish my brand. Right? So that's why it becomes hard for newer people to get involved into the world of it. And I think sometimes these guys, I don't want to say these guys, but sometimes newer shooters coming up who are truly passionate about what they love, what they want to do, it's always, what can I get? What can I get? What can I get? And I think that's the bad start.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's got to be,
Of course.
it's got to be, first of all, let me find the brands that I love, that I truly love, the people behind the brand, and how can I elevate what they're doing? And that's where it needs to start. It's not what can I get? What can I get? And you got to be loyal. I mean, it's got to be a loyal person to the brand because, if you're working for Beretta today and another company comes along and says, hey, Jay, whatever they're giving you, I'm going to give you X amount of percent more. And you jump ship, well, now everybody in the industry knows about that. And it doesn't only hurt you, it hurts me, it hurts him, it hurts everybody else. And it's hard. How do you – so, again, it goes back to what I'm saying. There's a small group of guys who's been in the industry for so long. And if they move for whatever reason and I'm some other VP somewhere, I want to go there because I know they're a known commodity and they're going to do the right thing. So cracking into it is tough. It's hard. There's only so many jobs to go around, which goes all the way back full circle to what we talked about a long time ago on the show just now is, how do we get our game elevated to become bigger so we can bring in new kids that Doug, myself, and JJ can mentor to someday take our job. I'm not ready to go yet, but maybe one of these days
First seek to
Nor am I.
understand.
Nor am I,
Yeah.
big boy. I still got
Yeah.
a few left in the tank. But what I saw too in our sport, different than in other sports. We always talk football, right? A quarterback wins one Super Bowl. The guy's set for life. He's doing commercials forever.
He's an astronaut.
Right? For us, you win a championship. Okay, well, you got to win another, and you got to do it over a length of time to be appreciated and to be acknowledged in our industry. I feel,
Sure.
and I mean, my famous line I tell people, it's taken me 30 years to be an overnight success. I mean, I've been doing this since '86, a pro since '90. I mean, it's crazy, and sometimes still, it's like you gotta. I've had my share of new marketing people come into companies that I've worked for, and it's like, okay, so what do you do? Who are you? And it's like, really, why am I sitting here? If you don't know who I am,
How'd you get this job?
Exactly. I mean, it's like, what? Really? I got to go through this dog and pony show again?
Doug, I've lost jobs over being like, what's the plan? And people look at you like you have 50 heads. And people in this room can testify to that. I've literally been like, so what's your plan? And people don't have the faintest clue to begin to even not only market in the firearms business, but understand the firearms business. You have to always, to Max's point, you have to always first seek to understand, then seek to be understood. So you have, you know, when you come into a company or a brand, and this is a Bruce Cardenas thing, Quest thing, you have to be willing to give the time. He tells the story all the time. He gave 6 months to Quest free. Didn't even know if he'd have a job. And just ran around and worked with them when they were nobody, you know? So little by little, and then it became Quest and Legendary Foods and first $1 billion nutrition company sold. So you have to, you know, my advice to anyone coming in is first seek to understand. Come in, take the time, do the research, put the decks together, put your notes together, get your head around what it is you're trying to bring to the table. But you're not going to be a Max or a Doug or a JJ tomorrow. Mm-hmm. You know, even if you win.
Takes time.
Even if you win.
Yeah. It's like Doug said, you know, when you win and you have to continue to win before you become somebody really solidified in the sport. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but you also have to understand what the company, the value you provide to the company. You have to understand their business plan and how it all works. You have to get a full understanding to help them market, you know, to help, you know, find out what they're looking for, what they want you to be, you know, what they want you to do and how you can help them. Because in the ultimate goal right now for the firearms is to sell guns. So how do we help them sell guns? We help them with development. We help them, you know, promote. We, you know, anytime they ask you to go do an event, you try to be, you know, cordial and do everything that you can do, because the ultimate goal is to help them sell guns. That's how we stay in business.
And that's actually what I wanted to say earlier, is that when I first became a professional shooter, I had a different outlook of what a professional shooter actually entailed. And then I get asked that now, how do I become a professional shooter? Do I just shoot competitions? And I'm like, man, it's a lot more than that. It's a lot more about R&D. It's a lot about contributing to what you can really bring to the company, understanding their mission statement and all that stuff. And now I don't even feel like explaining that now, because I'm just like, if you are looking for that answer and what entails to become a competition shooter or professional shooter, it's just not about winning. Mm-hmm. It's about everything else that you can bring to that table, your experience, your years of your trial and error on your own guns, trying to figure something out because it wasn't ready. No one else was making it, right? I mean, I'm sure you've come up with stuff in your basement, in your garage to make it work for your current gun.
Absolutely.
And then someone came out with it 8 years later and you're like, oh, should have just had someone manufacture it.
Well, I've got some of my own parts.
You got your own parts now.
That,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Got my own ammunition. I mean, it's stuff that you learn to do.
And I was going to say, all you guys have gone into companies, and this is the stuff people don't see, and I know a little of the inside baseball with a couple of you, and you've said you've retooled, let me put this gently, you've retooled technology that's been being done the same way for 20 or 30 years. You can't put a price on that.
Right.
You know?
Well, that's like, it goes back to what we were saying before. It's not just all about the winning. If you're going to be a professional shooter, and Doug kind of said it earlier too. I mean, it's you're an expert in the game, yes, of competitive shooting, but it's really your expertise and your experience is how I think you can provide best to the companies. And I'm sure winning helps, right? But
of course.
I work for a great company that, I mean, I'm sure they care that I win, but I don't feel like there's any pressure for me to win. You know, I put all that on myself. I'm gonna go out there and train hard and go out there and get wins as much as possible. But it's really your, you know, expertise and your experience that you can do to provide for a product. And somebody who's coming in, like Doug said, you can win a Super Bowl today in the shooting world, and it feels really good for yourself. And you're starting your career, you're kickstarting your career, so you automatically think, I've made it. Who can I go hook up with now? But you don't have that experience level that can really truly help develop a product and really truly help bring that product to the forefront and really try to help sell guns at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I mean, to what JJ said, I mean, I've been asked, I can't tell you how many times, hey, how do I become a pro shooter? I really want to be a pro shooter. They just think that they just pull a truckload of ammo up and you just stand at the range every day, and that's all you have to think about is just practice and go shoot matches. It's like, I shoot less now than I ever have. I mean, half the time I'm not prepared for
But you're
stuff
busier than ever.
Right, because I'm trying to do everything and try to do as much as I can for all my partners. And, you know, it's the way it is. It's just so much bigger than that. I mean, in a way, I kind of like the old days. I mean, for me, and I tell this story, I mean, it's, you know, I'm so old in this sport, like Robbie, right? He's a little older than me, but we're so old in this sport. There was no social media. There was no email. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, they called you. And
on the house line.
right on the house line,
yeah.
and hopefully they got the answering machine because you were out doing something. But you weren't micromanaged, and people didn't know or have to know or need to know
Correct.
what you're doing every minute, and have to be accountable for every minute. You were able to kind of they trusted because you had good performances at matches at that time. So they trusted that you were doing your job.
Right.
You were working, you were promoting, you were talking up the product, and you were being ready and being professional. And that was good. That was good enough. I mean, that's not the times we live in now. There's so much more that you have to do. But I do miss those days, you know. I mean, it's, you know, and I went through it having my boys, you know, being young at the time. Thank goodness, because right now, if I had kids 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old and doing all this crap that I do, it would be really, really tough to balance.
I could tell you that it's
Super tough. Super tough. Yeah.
My fear, Doug, honestly, hearing you say that is, I look at like what I would consider like economic indicators in different businesses, and I look at like bellwethers, and I've seen what happens in fitness. The guys on the stage are making less than the people walking around the shows, and I know you know what I'm talking about, JJ.
Yes.
And my fear is if they don't fix this thing in pro shooting and they don't clean it up and they don't get it right, there's never going to be a middle class in shooting. It's going to be you guys, a few others, and then it's going to be everybody else going around spending $30,000 to shoot. And that's a poor business model for success in any federation or any industry. And I have a real fear of that. And I can't stress it enough. If you go and you look at bodybuilding as an example, literally top guys win, and they have no contract. They have no deals. Doug, they have no deals. I know you don't know that world, but they have no deals. Literally, what was it the last time Phil Heath won Mr. Olympia? He had no fitness contract, no supplement contract, not one supplement company sponsored him.
Wow. That's crazy.
And it'll happen in this business if they don't fix it. It will happen, because what happens is these, and I know we all have our opinions, these social media people that get out there and film influencers and film R2D2 videos or whatever.
Why do you look at me?
They're the ones.
We both looked at you, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm like this. What do I have? Eyes on me?
What happens is they become the stars,
Yeah.
and they become the faces.
I don't mind that.
But they don't got the creds. At least you have some creds.
Thank
Come
you,
on now,
Doug. Thank you, Doug. Oh, good.
You know, and that's scary to me. And the window is small to fix it. And then it's in a fragile place, because what was it, just 2 years ago, even like with Mr. Olympia, they did something similar like what we just kind of start to see happen with NSSF. They said, oh, you can have a booth, but you have to buy 6 months of ads in Flex Magazine, because they were trying to keep Flex Magazine alive. You can't keep trying to keep these dead entities alive because they can't figure it out. You have to move on and evolve. So whether it's a Ruger, a Sig, or a Beretta, or anybody stepping up and saying, this is what we got to do. This is what has to happen. And we're going to put $1 million into it. You have to believe that there's smart enough people in the room to fix it, you know, and get it right. But if we have a middle class in shooting, or we have the ability to start to push up, not just the pay grade, the water level, everything, it elevates everything that everybody's doing. But if we don't do that, it's going to be 7, 10, 15 people making a living, and a lot of people running around as a hobby.
Right.
And that's what scares me. You know, and in fitness, it's almost, I would say, JJ, it's unsalvageable at this point.
That's crazy how far they fell off.
I would say it's pretty damn close, right? It's unsalvageable. Just because. And I don't know the answer to that. But if you look at any other pro sports leagues, the NFL is a great example. The strength is in the league. There's no team bigger than the league. And right now, the influencers, we're running around running the roost. But part of the problem is that exacerbates that. And I know you all know this. We just got done convincing the 50 and 60 somethings that run a lot of these marketing departments that Instagram was viable, right? We went through this with Facebook, go through it with Instagram, and it just takes too long to click the switch. It moves too quick, and you're like, well, wait a minute, we need to look at YouTube and we need to look at this, and they're like, whoa, like that's like, whoa, my mind's blown. TikTok is, forget it. Like that's like a spaceship. You can't even wrap your head around it. But maybe
I even know what that is.
But maybe what I'm getting at is
circles and X's, right?
Absolutely.
like
Oh, I'm missing a toe.
Like
Okay.
I don't have to tell you guys, like a huge untapped resource is the gaming industry. I think that's a huge friend to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't tell me one company that taps into the gaming industry properly.
None.
EA Sports.
But I don't have to tell you, many people go out and buy guns because they saw it on Call of Duty.
Absolutely.
So we can't continue to be a secular business that only sees Leo, Mill, whatever. Insert whatever you want. We have to start to see everything. And when we start to see everything, we'll find more often than not that so many other market segments, use a big term for the marketing directors out there, market segments that are very reachable, very inexpensive to reach, and can be done on a laptop if done properly. I said it behind the scenes to Cheyenne Dalton. She was like, I want to get into gaming. I want to get into, the gaming market. I said, Cheyenne, if you set up a Twitch and streamed that, you'd have 10,000 people tomorrow watching you stream. And if you were sitting there the whole time wearing like a Volkortsen shirt or a SIG or any brand, you'd probably sell a ton of guns for them. How hard is that to do? You do that with a cell phone. But we're light years from that. Jay, we're light years from that. Because you pitch that to a marketing director right now in the gun business, they're going to be like, we got to get a panel and we need a blue ribbon group and So we're in a funky crossroads, guys. We're in a funky place. But how we get it to the next level or how the key turns and the light bulb goes off, I don't know. And I'm with you. Like, I'm not a fan of the influencer game. I never have been. I wrote a book on it. It's on my website. It's available. Ambassadors versus influencers. I literally wrote a deck on it and published it. I said, here, he knows. I said, take a look at this. This will break it down to you what the difference is. But how can you take on influencers when you don't even have the software to track it? If I walked into 10 companies, JJ, how many of them use Refersion or use any referral program that actually tracks anything? They're like, here's a muzzle brake and a 5% off code.
Discount code's the way
You
to
see
go.
what I mean? So they're not even utilizing what they have properly yet. All fixable, guys. And I'd love to see it. But how it's done, again, we can spin the wheels till we're blue in the face, but let's jump quick to the Max Michel experience while you're here.
Yeah,
that's what we're here to sell. Let's give the shameless plugs.
Yeah, I got just another quick minute, John. I'm sorry, man. I got to run just a bit here. But the Max Michel Pro Shooter Experience, man, it's something that we've been doing really this is our 5th year now. And I want you to think about it as more of like a fantasy camp for shooters, right? So it's in Las Vegas. It's got the bright lights.
I stopped by. I saw it.
I know, but you know what I'm saying? Like, this is how I want people to think about it at home. It's got the bright lights. You bring your wife, you bring your spouse. You guys hang out on the strip, and we have social activities. We have some of the best instructors in the world. These guys are learning lots. We have amazing sponsors as a part of it.
You're giving away like guns and it's amazing.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's a VIP
I want the goodie
fantasy
bag.
camp feel. We don't bring in hundreds of people to this. It's roughly 24 people from all across the world that come out. So it's a lot of one-on-one time with amazing instructors. And great fun, learning lots, like-minded individuals that you're surrounding yourself with, and you're going to go home with a lot of
Why'd you
great
start
prizes.
it?
Oh, just I wish I had it when I was, when I was coming up in the game. Why did I start it? Because, again, going back to other sports, I look at it like, if I could get my son to go catch balls with Larry Fitzgerald and those guys, I mean, how cool would that be, right? So some of these guys that are out there watching us as shooters, whether it be on TV, on social media, or just at the matches, they get to come hang out with us. They get to see what it's like to be a pro shooter for a weekend. That's the whole deal. Yeah. And typically we have cameras out there. It's filmed, it's televised. But with COVID, a lot of restrictions this year. But overall, it's what it is. It's a fantasy camp for shooters. I don't care what level you're at. We have guys that are brand new shooters that has never shot before until all the way up to literally top 10 guys in the world that I've trained with out there. And we've had people come from all as far as Australia to local guys here in Vegas.
Any past students go on and win? I meant to ask you that. Like anything big?
I think we have lots of folks that all of us have worked with on every level, but yeah, one of the ones I'm most proud of is a guy from Australia, and he was after our training, he was top 10 in the world at the World Championship, which is pretty cool.
That is freaking cool.
Sir, I remember that.
So
That was 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
Arthur.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a testament to you guys. I mean, Doug, why Max and why the Max Michel experience?
Well, I love these guys, and Max knows that. I mean, to me, just as one of the older guys in the sport, to be involved with the younger guys and kind of show them the ropes, how to be a professional and that. And just once he had the concept to do it, I knew it would be a lot of fun. And I, it's a way for me to give back. And I think for the participants, not only do they get the knowledge of the shooting part, all the technique and stuff like that. I mean, at least from my angle, I like to give them stories. They're never get to hear, how I felt the first night at my first Bianchi Cup when I was getting ready to shoot the next day to shoot the first perfect score. I mean, stories that I don't really get to tell that much to a lot of people, and it's just fun to kind of give, and those stories actually give them experience, what the experience is, something they can take from that. Because unlike what most people think, I've lost a lot more than I've won. Okay, and same with Max, and same with JJ. I mean, you look at all the matches we've shot, no matter how great we perceive that we've done and what we've done, I mean, we don't win 50% of what we've shot in our life. I mean, depend. You know what I'm saying? Overall, I mean, it's just overall. So if you can give the people those experiences, good and bad, it's a lesson that they can learn, and it just it's a great concept. And anytime I get to hang out with my dog, I'm going to come do that.
Amen. And you don't need this, Mr. Social Media. Why this?
Max is a good friend of mine, and it was a great idea when he came up with it. He called me up, and he's like, what do you think about this? And it's this opportunity. I'm like, man, if I had that a long time ago, that would have been so awesome to be able to shoot with Doug and hang out with him for a few days. Because I'll never forget the first time I got invited to dinner, and it was Robbie sitting across from me. And I sat there I'm like, oh, my God, this is my idol, is my hero, and all these guys. And I was like, man, if I had that opportunity a long time ago, I would have loved to if I could afford it. And that was that opportunity, and I couldn't believe that we were at that. You came up with the idea, but I couldn't even think that it was us
to do it, right?
To do that, but it was us that was. I couldn't even say to because Doug and Robbie, they were here, they're here, and so I couldn't even say that. Max and JJ were like them now. I can't say that just because they are they are them. They're
it's overwhelming,
here, right? So when I couldn't fathom the idea, but I'm like, man, that would be great if we can make it work. And he's like, man, I'm gonna start trying it today. Would you be in it? I'm like, 100%.
It was scary. It was scary launching it, right? I've thought about it for a couple of years before.
What if it failed?
Yeah, what if it fails?
It was embarrassing,
right?
Yeah.
And a lot of buddies were like, oh, you got to start small. And I'm like, I don't want to do it small.
Not me.
I know you're gonna go soon, but what's the furthest someone's traveled for it?
Australia.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said that
amazing.
Today. It's fucking crazy.
It is.
That is crazy. I mean, does that blow your mind?
It does. It's awesome to think that people look up to us the way that they do, and we have a responsibility to give back and help and create a legacy in our sport. Because I think all of us at this table has won enough now. We don't need to win anymore. We only win because we want to. We don't need to win to make ourselves feel any better or to build our resume anymore. Now it's about creating a legacy and helping other people get to where they want to be.
Well, and I think kind of going on your whole theme here that I picked up too is, let's be realistic. If we don't bring new people in and propagate them to want to be where we are, and the sport fades away, we fade away.
Yeah.
Okay?
Doug, unbelievable tie-in. You need a podcast.
He does.
100%. I'll help you start it. 100%.
Casey Kasem, top 4.
Now,
here we go.
There's I'm going to just say this before we wrap, because the goodie bag's amazing. Yeah. And there's a lot of great sponsors and people involved with it.
Yeah.
Can you rattle off the list without giving like a soliloquy about each one?
Yeah. I mean, there's been so many people that helped me over the years through this. I mean, SIG has obviously been by my side the entire time, which is cool because, like I told you, we only bring in about 24 people on the high end. This year's a little bit lower because of COVID stuff. But, so if you think about, without rattling everything off, like you said, I mean, if I bring in, I don't know, $50,000 to $80,000 in prizes for 15 people. To me, that's big because
Huge.
you don't see that.
Giant.
You don't see that in 300 or 400 people at a competition anymore these days. You just don't see it. So, the companies that really have truly supported us from the very beginning, like SIG and Cabela's and some of the other guys that I've been associated with and worked with for so long, when these guys show up, just for showing up, their goodie bag is valued at over $1,000.
Wow.
And I mean, just for showing up, and it's usable stuff. It's good eye protection, good hearing protection, good backpacks, the things that you need to go to the range and compete with, or just go to shoot with. It's not stuff you're going to look at, dump it out, and say, I guess I'll keep the ink pen. The sticker's pretty cool, too. It's great stuff, and I'm proud of the sponsors that allow us to do what we do, and it would not be the event that it is. The instructors are amazing. The venues are amazing. My wife works behind the scenes, amazing. But without the sponsors bringing in all those prizes, it would just be another class.
Well, it's an amazing thing. I got a chance to stop by today, and the students are super into it. I mean, the other day, the students are super into it, and you could see just the enjoyment of being around you guys and being able to participate and, chop it up and hang out. And really, as I've said since day one, it's when the gun's not going bang, that little hangout time.
You're right. The bus rides, right, guys? The bus rides, we're going to ride to and from the range.
I was going to say
Awesome.
earlier, and I don't want to get off on a tangent because I know we got to wrap, but it's the stories that get lost at the campfire.
Absolutely.
That are the real stories, and that's what I felt has been the biggest failure of this whole game.
Right.
And I think that those are the stories that really need to be immortalized and talked about, because that's the story, really. It's being able to sit around with the guys and talk about the Yankee Cup, talk your story about how you came on at SIG. I mean, amazing. Your ability to tie in the social with everything else and put yourself out there the way that you have over the years. I mean, just all that stuff, and taking the chances that you guys took. Listen, I'm at the table with three giants, and I truly feel that way. That's why anytime you guys are around, flex it out.
I was just stretching. That's all it was.
You know how I feel. Listen, I don't have to tell both of you. You know how I feel about you. Don't make it emotional. And Doug, getting to spend a little time with you, it's really a pleasure. I mean
Same here,
that.
likewise.
And having you guys on anytime that you're in town and getting you guys in here, especially during the Michel Pro Shooter Experience, if I get that right, here in Vegas.
Our
Available
only
to
night
everyone.
off.
Only night off
Yes.
spent with me.
He runs us to the ground.
He did feed us, though, and it was awesome.
Oh, it's been good.
Yeah, shout out to Jesse Reyes for the food. Yeah, we have to do that. And I know JJ will take a plate because his anorexic ass could use it.
Can't wait.
But I want to thank you guys truly
Absolutely.
for coming out and spending the time.
Thank you.
It means a lot. And I appreciate all the things that you guys do in the shooting business, and you guys truly are the heroes of the business. I mean that. And without you guys, the needle doesn't move forward. I'm old and broken down. I can't do anything. It's up to you guys. I'm ready for the coffin. No, but I truly do love what you guys do, and it's a pleasure to see all you guys at work and stop by the booths. And anytime I get to see you guys on the range, I love it. It's a lot of fun.
I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Yeah,
John.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much,
Thank
sir.
you.
All right. Hey, listen, head over to www.johnbartoloshow.com. Go check out all the sponsors. I think I said everybody before, but they'll all be down below, all the links. And I'll throw in the Michel Pro Shooter Experience. We're out.
Peace.